Recording is happening.
Great, welcome to the October 12th, 2023 Library Trustees meeting. We're going to start with correspondence.
So I did get an email from Susan letting me know that we received a check from the John and Eunice B. Morrison Charitable Foundation for $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know for what.
All right. I'd love to hear more. Congratulations. Do we need, and what do we need to do to do we need to go to the select board?
Yeah, I'll have to go to the select board. Susan said she tried to put it on the next agenda, but I'm not sure. We just got it today, so I don't know. I think
they just had a meeting some 2 weeks ago. Wow, that's a nice surprise. All right, so moving on to minutes of prior meetings, which was September 14th, 2023. Everyone have a chance to review them?
Is the date quite a bit wrong? Is the date the 12th on that? I'll take a look.
It says September 14th.
Oh, this is 14th. Excellent.
Any comments or questions? Hearing none, can accept a motion.
I move to accept the minutes from August 14th.
I second. From September 14th and seconded by Sarah. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We can move on. All right, so we are moving on to public comment. So we do have someone in the waiting room. Hi, Megan.
Hi.
Are you doing public comment?
I'm just a library school student, and one of our assignments is to observe a Board of Library Trustee meeting. So I just tried to pop in on Zoom to check out what you guys are up to.
Well, welcome. Where are you? Are you in the area?
I'm from Reading. I'm going to school at Clarion Penn West University online.
Nice. Well, welcome to our meeting.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll keep it understandable to you, having not had any history.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Great. So I don't see any other public comment. And Sam, there's no other visitors. All right, so moving on from public comment. We have our treasurer's report, which I emailed to everyone. So if you give me a second, I will find it. In the so now acting as treasurer, MMDT account, we have $9,248.11. In the building fund, there is $23,707.81. In the state aid fund, we have $13,932.89. And in our Barth, the month ending statement value is $1,417,675.13, which went up a little bit from last. It was nice to see. Any questions about treasurers? Okay, moving to our funds report.
All right, so good news, as you all walked by, is the book sale. So that is going on. I was there yesterday as they were setting up, accepting boxes of books, and lots of NHS students were there helping out with the setup. So that was good to see. And it looks like things are in pretty good shape. So that is opening tomorrow at 2, I believe 2 to 3 is the early friends access, and then later on, and then Sunday will be the Halloween book sale as usual. And then also started to talk about the book sale room manager roles and responsibilities. So they aren't going to make that an official position on the board, but just to have it as a job for someone who wants to take on and to make guidelines for what books to keep and what books to weed out for that. Maybe they will make it. So they're just debating whether to make it. I guess it says they don't need to update the bylaws to make it an official position. So maybe they will. They talked about the possibility of making an Amazon wish list for the coffee cart and making that public so that if patrons wanted to purchase that, they could do that. And then the next meeting will be the annual meeting, and they are updating the website and putting out posts to maybe get new people to come and participate in the funds.
What date is their next one? Do you remember? October
18th. So that's next Wednesday. And other thing. The in-library book sales were 1,054. Thank you. So maybe that was, I don't know if that was for that month or since from a certain time point, that's not indicated in the minutes, and those were the major points for the meeting.
All right, thank you. Any questions about the Friends report? Hearing none, we're going to move on to the building updates.
Okay, so I finally got in contact with Phil, the architect in Johnson Roberts. And he said that he is working on finalizing the lead report and that he plans to submit it by tomorrow. So I will be contacting him on Monday if I do not hear anything. And if we do not hear anything, I will be contacting town council.
Have you talked to Ryan about that plan too?
No, Ryan and I keep playing phone tag.
Okay.
So I will talk to him about it.
Okay.
So any questions about that? Okay. So bathrooms. So as you all may be aware, there have been at least 3 times where sewage backed up in the downstairs bathrooms here.
Would you
So
recall the dates off the top of your head?
not off the top of my
So
head.
you have them listed somewhere?
Yeah. No.
Since the
So
sewer work started?
yeah, it started after the sewer work started. So I reached out to the building inspector, Mike Kinney, and the plumbing inspector, and George. And we are working on coming up with some sort of plan, or to try to at least figure out the reason behind it. So I did speak to Mike again yesterday about it, and he said that he's gonna speak to Ed, the plumbing inspector, and, we're gonna talk about it. Try to figure out a way to prevent it from happening. Let's see. I also reached out to MBLC about that additional $686,000 and change they're supposed to send us. So they sent out the contract a couple of days ago via DocuSign, and it's been making rounds to me and to Ryan and to town treasurer. And once everybody has signed it, then they will send us the files.
Do we need to sign that?
Yeah. I also spoke to Nick from LELWD about the fire road. He said Rivoli is going to work on completing the fire road to make sure it's certified, and they're also going to remove the silt fence. I think that's it.
Any questions from you guys about these building updates? So I want to make sure we're on top, and I've had this conversation with you, but just to state it here too, on top of this sewage backup issue, because we didn't have this issue before the sewer work went up the hill. So something has changed, and it's a shame to have a new building that is having sewer issues. So we need to not only look at how to deal with it if it's happening again with the snake idea or whatever, but how to prevent it from continuing. And working with clearly Ryan, but also LELWD in case they are unaware of the issues we've had here. So let us know what support you need in working through that.
I thought the spreadsheet you shared, I think it was for the last meeting, was really helpful too, to just kind of see everything laid out there, and I don't know if you're tracking
The
this
building
stuff
fixes.
on there. For the building, all the stuff,
it?
Yeah.
building, yeah.
Yeah, I was working on updating it. The sources, most of it's on BT. I haven't sent it out yet, though.
Yeah, but I thought that was really helpful and just kind of showed everything that's the building is needed, and I think that just longer term for future, I appreciated you putting that together. It was a really nice visual of what it costs to run the building. And I imagine, if sewer stuff is going on there too, it'll paint a really nice picture with the exact dates and the timing and kind of prove a case if there is one to be made about.
I would add the sewer things.
Yeah.
I do appreciate, I asked Sam to add onto that spreadsheet, which fund the various items were paid out of too, so that we knew, is this something we paid out of trust? Is it something or MMDT that we had moved money into, or is it the building, or is it something else?
It was pretty much all I
I had a feeling it was mostly from
The only
money
one
we've
that,
moved out of trust.
basically the only one that wasn't was the EV car charger.
Yeah.
And that was actually hard to figure out.
Yep.
So it's applied to lead.
Yep.
But it's not.
Yep.
It's been paid, but we haven't gotten lead yet, obviously.
Yeah, no, there was some shuffling of accounts.
Yeah.
I think it went back into if I remember correctly, they moved it back into the gift fund and pulled it from there. There's something else waiting that's put back into the lead.
Yeah, it's basically encumbered when I look at games.
Yes. So, I think that's a really useful tool to bring when we do the budgeting discussion, but also just to have as our thing. But the sewer, I think, needs to be added here for when the issues started. I'm really worried about the sewer thing. I think it's quite plausible given the timeline of when this issue started that something got jostled or just misaligned. And this is a heavy use public building, so heavy use public building with a pipe that's not connected well is going to back up. So I don't want a new building filled with sewage if we can avoid it. All right. Any other questions about building updates? Right. Let's do director's report.
Okay. So the town has created a staff engagement committee. It's a group of basically non-union staff in town, mostly town hall staff, but everyone from the library, all in town employees are invited to the. So we had our first meeting on September 15th. It's a small group. It was basically a get to know you introductory meeting. So actually a lot was discussed, but
Who showed up?
it was me, Susan, Amy went. The people on the group are Michelle Bieber, representing HR, Tim from Park and Rec, Liz from the COA, a few others are on the group. And there were a lot of people at the meeting from various town departments. So yeah, it was a good meeting. They're planning to have more, but basically they're meant to be like, since the personnel committee doesn't really exist anymore, they're meant to be like the go-between town staff and the select board. He attended an MVLC membership meeting on October 19th. Not a lot to report. Just discussed the MVLC budget process. And Michelle and I, the HR director, met on October 21st to discuss your questions about the Ray Grant scholarship position and changing that into an internship position. She said that's definitely possible. We could also use it. We'll probably talk about this more later when we talk about Ray Granting, but she said that's a possibility. She would just need to know more. So once we know more, she said to go to her and she can help us work on it. Yeah, basically the rest is the stats. As far as financially, we're doing well, we're pretty much on target. Any questions?
No questions for me.
Okay.
I continue to love all the offerings in the YA.
Me too.
In particular, I love her energy. I think it's fantastic.
She and James are working really well together.
The room is filled, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome. I just generally walking around last week to look at the band book displays in every department. It was great. I loved that too. I thought that was well thought out for every department putting them on.
I like the social media around that too. So that was really well done.
So thank you to whomever put those together. All right, let's move on to Mike. Before we move on, do you have anything you want to add to the director's report from the assistant director's position?
No, that pretty much sums it up well.
All right, so for old business, is that where we are? we have the meeting room policy.
So we met yesterday, Wendy, Chris and I met yesterday just to make a couple of changes that came up from last meeting. So we added a line, the children's craft room is not available for reservation. And then Wendy added a paragraph about the exterior doors. That's about halfway down. Exterior doors, including front library entrance, patio doors, and side exits may not be propped open. It is the responsibility of those reserving the space to monitor their group's arrival and departure and to ensure doors are closed at all other times. Is everyone okay with that language? And then down the bottom, we just added, right under the Sturts and Murray room, we said patrons 18 years and older, 18 years and up are able to reserve these rooms. And then under the study rooms, study room reservations are held for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, a reservation is considered forfeited. I got an email from Julie today, which she had some concerns about the language. And she said she proposes the following language in the section for study rooms. Study rooms must be reserved by an individual 12 years or older. Use of the study rooms may begin when the library is open and end 10 minutes before the library closes. Reservation holders must check in at the circulation desk upon arrival and departure. I don't think we had departure in ours. Late arrival more than 15 minutes for study room booking may result in the reservation forfeiture. Mid-reservation room departures may result in reservation forfeiture if library staff were not informed. And then she went on to say, we don't intend to cancel anyone's reservation just because they're late, but if they don't show up within 15 minutes of start time and another patron asks for the space and a late person's space is the only option, I'd like to have the words in the policy to back us up. So she was offering revised language, which.
That's why we had to put the forfeiture in there. So we can put may forfeiture, well, we just went with the firmer. What we're finding as we're going through the policies is they're very, very wishy-washy. There's a lot of could be, maybe, unclear, we'll see what happens. And my experience with policies is this is what it is, and then library staff are welcome to bend it at a different time. But if you're getting someone who's angry at a desk, and the language is already wishy-washy, you don't really have that option to stand back on. So we can certainly go with the language in there that maybe forfeiture could be, but if the policy is you've lost the right, then the librarian who has to kind of deal with that is being kind and saying, no, we can still be in there, I'm not enacting this.
If no one else is coming up to ask for the room, then
Right.
it's like they started a new reservation.
Right, and they're able to do that, but if it's might be forfeiture, then the librarian is in the position to be picking and choosing when they're enacting it and when they're not. And then that's where the argument comes in. So my experience with policy is it's more black and white, and that gives the prerogative to the librarian to decide to wiggle versus it's gray and then the librarian is the bad guy for having to enact it. But again, I'm happy that's on the corporate side. I mean, a nonprofit corporate side, but that's been our experience. So I think the only line we don't have in there that aligns with Julie's suggestion is if you leave halfway through without checking out. And I have no problem with that piece of it. But my recommendation would be to be firmer, would be considered forfeited at that time if you don't do it.
So right now our language is study room reservations are held for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, a reservation is considered forfeited. And you're asking to keep that line.
My recommendation would be to keep that.
Right, I'm just, yeah.
Because that's very clear.
Right.
But if someone comes in at 16 minutes, a librarian should always feel empowered under Sam and Mike's guidance to say, it's fine, we got you, continue to go in.
Yeah, if no one else has asked for the room at that point, then it
Right.
could just be like a new.
Right, but if it's May and you have two people going in and they gave one room away and not the other, then the librarian is in a really terrible position to explain why they enacted the May for one and not the other.
Sam, are you okay with the language we have? And then
And as you're educating the staff on this, how to go about, here's the more strong language, but let's run scenarios. And I think you guys can handle that.
You mean the librarians are beyond, they're always nice and they're always, I mean, like
They bend over backwards to
Like,
accommodate as much as they can. So,
absolutely. But
within reason.
But then we think about like what Sam said last time, when people are coming with cameras or people are coming in a bad position, then that's where the policy is designed to protect. Right? So you want a policy that can be used as a shield when you need it, knowing that the librarians don't act that way and aren't trained to act that way. But that's just how I approach policy. And then Julie's second line, I would agree with, like, if the librarians want the ability to close out a reservation, if someone dumps their stuff and leaves or gets in and leaves halfway through, then by all means, if they're not checking in with someone.
Mhm.
But my 2 cents would be if it's the more rigid piece of that as well.
Okay, so,
So again, she used may in that sentence, so if the mid-reservation room departure
Is considered forfeited if without checking it with.
will result in a reservation forfeiture.
so mid-reservation room departures may result in reservation forfeiture.
We need to get rid of may, because that's a wishy-washy word.
So I said, will. If we say will, and then they decide that,
Yeah, they can always make an
Right.
exception.
right, okay,
Yeah, I mean, anyone can make an exception, or as Katrina said, you've now lost your room,
mhm,
but you're back, the room's still available, I'm now letting you back in.
right, okay,
It's almost like a new reservation at that point.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
do we have another room that you could go back into? Yes, okay, then go ahead.
But you don't have the right to leave, go run an errand and come back and assume
Right,
it's yours.
right,
Or you're working here for the day, go get lunch for that.
Yeah.
right. So everyone's good with those changes?
And Sam, I don't think we missed any from what you suggested last time.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
I appreciate the addition of the doors,
Yes.
given what I've observed. Sam, is this, I'm thinking process now, not procedure or policy here, is when we do reservations, is this ever attached to the reservation email so that?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what,
okay. So that it will show up in someone's email box. They can say they didn't know about the policy. They have it in there. A link to it in the email reservation. Okay. Cool.
Okay. Thank you. Sam, I'll send. Well, you should have it now,
Yeah.
it's shared, right? And I just changed the date, so like, this should be the final.
I know. I would love to sit on this for a while and then for the librarians to figure out how to use this within this, and then if there are more changes to give it more time to run before we change it again. All right, so we need to vote to accept the amended policy. I did not make a motion on that because I'm running the meeting.
I motion to accept the updated meeting room policy.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And none opposed. So moving to the next item on our agenda, which is the Ray Grande Scholarship.
I can talk about that a little bit. You can jump
I
in.
think we all have pieces of information, so why don't you start with your,
I can report on the NHS piece that Sam and Kimberly and I went to this morning. They were absolutely lovely. And there was 2 main pieces of feedback. One was around the advertising and one was around the structure of the scholarship. The advertising, the main takeaways were that we are not hitting our audience. The only person in that room who knew the scholarship existed was Demetra's daughter. Nobody else knew, including the NHS advisors. So they had just didn't know it existed. They recommended that going through the main office is not the way to go versus the guidance counselors, so Chris Christie and Jen Healy.
so go through the guidance counselor.
Yeah, and that it going through Chris and Jen would get it into the hands of students directly, as well as to the advisors and the right, and kind of the quote unquote right teachers around that. So that'd be better. When we're advertising the scholarship, tying it to the goals of students would be helpful as well. So while people seem to appreciate the flexibility that you could shelve or you could work with kids, or there's some options here, highlighting how that helps the students might be helpful. So like Sam, there were a couple of kids that were kind of like, yeah, no, I'm not shelving books. And one of the advisors was like, no, actually that was like really like zen for me. I loved it. And then Sam jumped in and was like, and actually the job you want in college, if you're gonna be working in college, is in the library. People were like,
Those are such coveted jobs. You need to
and like
have a leg up on.
and a third of the group gonna sit up and they're like, oh, So like that kind of LinkedIn, and then one of the advisors said, and if you're doing a reading circle for the kids here, that's what early educators want, that's what teachers want, that's how you put on a resume, and then now the whole world was engaged. But kind of drawing those, from A to B links for them might be really important. And then being really concrete, where to find the application, what are the exact steps, what are the exact deadlines? They felt that is something really important, or else kids just lose interest really quickly.
Mhm.
And then the structure of the scholarship, people were really lukewarm about. I think we got some honest feedback about it. We're competing with scholarships that are available online for almost no requirements, not even an essay. So there's a lot of money out there for kids. And so the number of hours we're asking for the amount of money we're giving is really inequitable for people. The hours themselves were really, really significant, especially because over the course of a whole year, a lot of the students in that room acknowledged that they're involved in multiple sports, multiple after-school activities, jobs, AP classes, and what have you. And so to carve out additional time for a full year commitment was something that seemed much more overwhelming or much more unlikely to have them apply for than a shorter period of time. A couple of them said they would do it over a 2-year time period, which seems like, nope, you're not. I appreciate the thought of trying to kind of, fix that problem for us, but I'm not sure that's really viable. But a couple of them did say, I can get those hours done over 2 years, but not one. They felt junior year was really stressful. They felt senior year was also really stressful to kind of do this, just with all the tasks happening. But a shorter period of time, with a clear commitment, seemed more doable. And I think Kimberly asked directly what if it was, X number of weeks in the summer, as opposed to working at like Camp T, and that got some interest as well. Noting that it wouldn't be working because we can't employ. So that was the feedback, was mainly around the structure of it and, the equitable piece of that, and then the advertising piece.
Okay,
Did I miss anything, Sam?
Thank you.
I think this is very valuable feedback, so I really appreciate you guys going to talk to them, have this conversation.
Sure.
Great time there.
They were very lovely. It was a great group. A couple of them I recognized from helping at the book sale. We thank them for their service.
Okay, so after this conversation in the last meeting, I said I would go back to pick Mark's brain about why do we even have, like, how did this get started? And the history of it is that the library used to have and pay aides. So doing the jobs that the scholarship people did, and those at one point in time were cut, those positions were cut, but the library still needed those positions. So the way that it got filled in was that it was fulfilling a need. So scholarship was fulfilling a need for the students, and then that's how it got started. So it's a scholarship specifically for the tax pieces versus an internship or anything like that.
Sorry for the tax piece.
Like so you don't have to employ them. There's not like that kind of piece on there. So it started as a scholarship as like, let's help students helping us. It's like the community town library benefit kind of thing. So in that way, it's totally open for us to restructure because it's clearly not working. So it's up to us to restructure as we see fit. And the piece that is you probably should answer is, what is the other component of this, is what does the library need and when, how many hours, how many people?
So generally we need someone during summer reading. So my suggestion, we can get volunteers any time of the year. So to, I think, taking care of the piece where the kids are, it's too time consuming, would be, maybe narrow it down to 6 weeks during summer. It's a 6-week paid, whatever you want to call it.
Like mid-June to end of July, or
mid-June to-
beginning of July and
it's always
middle of
been
August?
through the end of summer reading, so that would be August 21st-ish.
Well, giving them time if they have breaks or something with their family too. So if it's like a 8-week period, we ask them to work.
For the duration, like the time period could be the duration of summer reading.
Yeah.
Well, if you start with what you need, because like if you
Yeah.
start to pick apart, like, seniors, graduated seniors, you're not getting at the end of August if they're transitioning to college or things like that. But if we just focus on like what would the ideal be for the library, Because we could also break it up into lots of mini scholarships. There's different things depending on what you need, like, so like. The first is a timeline, then the next in my head would be like, how many do you want to manage at once? That would be, so the time frame is like mid-June to the end of August 21st or so.
Yeah, yeah, August 21st would work.
Okay,
So yeah,
Mid-June
mid-June to
to
August
mid-August.
21st.
Late August, okay.
Yeah.
Hours per week? Or tasks per week?
I feel like the task piece of how many hours, and maybe we can't answer these tonight,
Yeah, I don't know if I would have to talk to Megan and to Diana about that.
and the opportunities of what they could do.
Right. But yeah, I think that general time period being the best. And then we could also always use, it's always it's not even just like doing tasks, it's they can help out the staff upstairs. So if they're not down here in the children's room, they can be upstairs helping to shelve, because it's also a staffing thing.
Mhm.
So even though we might not be using them as the staff per se, they can be doing things like, well, other staff can be doing, helping out with the programs or doing programs or that sort of thing.
Sure.
Okay.
If you had a ballpark number of hours a week that has historically been helpful or that's felt, because at some point it becomes a burden too.
Right, so they've always, as long as I've been here, they've been like basically full-time doing summer, because they're all trying to get their hours in.
Mhm.
But they probably do like 8 to 10 hours per week of time. It's probably not really that necessary if they're just focusing on programs.
So 8 to 10 would be programs. And when you say they've been full-time, have they like been 40 hours a week?
Well, if they have to get the one
Yeah, they're
50 hours, they
they're
were,
trying to get everything in, so they have.
Okay,
Yeah, because they're trying to do at least 20.
okay.
Yeah,
so like half time.
yeah. But if we're changing the hours required, it's really only maximum 15 hours.
Okay.
And how many does it feel overwhelming? Like, 'cause some of them you've known then, but since like
Right.
a while. So like, what's helpful or what kind of time frame?
2 max is really the most,
2 scholarship.
yeah, 2 scholarships. 1 to 2.
So if you were working with 2 and they're coming 10 to 15 hours a week, does that cover, without committing to it at this point, does that seem to cover what you need programmatically?
Yeah.
And do you need them there at the same time or?
No, not necessarily. It depends on what, it could just be cutting out crafts, getting crafts prepared for the children. Right.
Basically, you have an additional 20 hours of time, per person time,
Right.
each week then.
Right.
Approximately.
And do you find there's flexibility around that, like weekends versus?
Oh yeah, we've always worked with them to.
If their family's going on vacation,
Yeah.
they can up the hours another week kind of thing.
And do you need help on the weekends versus the days? Like if this was your choice versus what they need, are there times that you need more or the library needs more?
Usually nights and Saturdays were the
Mhm.
only days.
Or the big times.
And that's all just really helpful to know too, because I think in the back of my head, like just knowing they brought up, like, I'm working, I have all these other things, like they could potentially still work at a camp tea or something like that and pick this up around that, which is a selling point if we stick with hours or if we stick with something else.
Yeah, and as we're talking about the dollar value to attach to this, I do think we need to look at minimum for each hour worked. Like this could be somebody's part-time job or whatever. They're putting in the time, they should have minimum wage in it. So, which unfortunately we weren't hitting in last year's numbers, so. Okay.
Would you want to see anything different from the candidates if they're kind of doing a more targeted, you don't have the ramp up with them to kind of get to know them, you need them to kind of come in and hit the ground running. Would you want something different in an application? Or do you and Mike want to talk about that over time?
Yeah, if we're restructuring it, it becomes more popular and we're saying we can only choose 2, we still need some sort of application in order to help figure out who to weed down to, right?
Yeah, I think the application you have works. I think the application requires they write an essay about community service. Maybe change that.
Yeah, I'm not sure
I don't know.
has ever persuaded me.
Yeah,
No,
but other than that, I think it's maybe.
But is there job skills or school skills or whatever that would be useful to know that they have in their back pocket?
And if it could be helpful to know that they're interested in working with kids, you know, programming, that sort of thing. But I mean, we can teach them.
you can, but you got a really short time to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like before you had the whole year. And before it's felt a little bit like a joint charity project.
Mhm.
I mean, where they're helping us and we're kind of helping them and what have you, and this feels a little bit more like we're shifting to. I need you to hit the ground running, I need you to come in and be helpful to Diane and to folks and to, in which case we may want to look at the screening a little bit more robust, I think.
Well, I think if we have kind of a description of what they'll be doing, that would help weed out. I mean, someone who's not interested in working with kids at all is not going to apply.
Yeah.
Or you would hope they wouldn't. So if we're talking about, and I agree that it needs to be, minimum wage, are we going to shift from a scholarship to an internship?
No, I just think that it could still be a scholarship
Okay.
and that will, that way we're not dealing with hiring them through HR or anything like that. But it's just making sure that the monetary value that's attached to it is equivalent to a minimum wage job. That way, if somebody is having to choose between the scholarship and getting a job elsewhere, then it's equivalent, right? Like maybe not in hours, but in pay. Or if they're adding that on to their second job or something. It just doesn't seem right to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna have you do all of this work for less money than you could get for a job. Like it just does not make sense to me.
Yeah.
So we need to keep up with the times, basically, in that sense. In my opinion. Okay, so what should be next steps?
It sounds like Sam is gonna go back to the HR person and see what the next steps would be.
Well, I think that was
I
if
don't know if we need to,
we were
yeah.
doing an internship.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we're just gonna do a scholarship, I think, I should get feedback from Megan and Diane and Mike and Julie and. If we're gonna narrow it to, is that what we want to do, narrow it down to a 6 to 8 week period of the.
Well, I want to know, forget everything we've just talked about. What do you need? And what would be the ideal scenario for if you were to create it now? And what best works for the library? Like, what does that look for you? Like, do you need them to start coming in a few hours since the beginning of June, so they're ready to hit it at the middle of June when summer reading starts? Like,
No.
you think that one over?
Yeah, so I think narrowing it down to later in the year, during the summer, so making it like a 6 to 8 week period. And then honestly, what I'd like to see is for them to get something out of it other than, just shelving, so maybe if we can really create that's why I want to speak to Diane and Megan to make it more, if we're not going to call it an internship, but make it something that's a learning experience for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're promoting it as something they get job skills, then we should make sure they get job skills out of it.
So I'm going to work with them to create some sort of a job description or something. If I can call it that, but and then I'll bring something to you guys.
Okay. So if you can tell us what the library needs and how many hours and that stuff, we can then apply the math for minimum wage.
And is there a reason to not do an internship? Is it because it ends up taxed?
There was complications with
Legally, it's weird.
Okay. And that's true for like a fellowship as well?
Don't know, I didn't ask, but I can try.
Are we targeting this to juniors and seniors or just juniors?
I think this is the good question is something we should definitely think about. Maybe that first year we figure out what's a better, should it be incoming juniors and incoming seniors versus outgoing juniors?
Because I'm just imagining a graduated senior
Yeah.
would not maybe be the best.
But they also are the most motivated if they need money. So I'm not against letting a recently graduated senior work for their scholarship the summer before they go to school. I think that's appropriate in some ways. And maybe they don't apply because that's all they want to.
Right, that's true, so. Sure. If they don't want to, then they would.
And it sounds like maybe we can look at the advertising and the application process. And maybe present something in November.
The other question with this is if it's a scholarship and it comes with a stipend, can this count as volunteer hours towards graduation requirements?
I think we have to talk to the school about what their requirement is for volunteer hours versus,
I mean, it seems like no,
yeah, I feel like,
but they're not getting paid for the time, they're getting a scholarship. And technically you should never get a scholarship for working, so it's a very weird setup in a very gray area, but that might also be a hook for some of the people, especially if you're looking at rising juniors and rising seniors who have not finished that requirement. When you're looking at candidate pool.
we can look at the handbook at high school and see what they specify.
And I don't know if it makes a difference, scholarship versus stipend.
I mean, that's maybe a great question for the counselors too.
Yeah. I know in DMH and mass rehab, it's a very, stipend is okay and like no tax implications, but like internship and fellowship, like I know, and I don't know enough about it, but I know that some of our kids that are volunteering get a stipend at the end that equal minimum wage through those agencies. And again, I don't know enough about how it's set up, but that might.
We can go back
Here's
to
what HR is
Michelle.
an interesting thing to just say, because that, again, like, I'm hearing a couple of different things. I'm hearing that we want to honor kind of the tradition that this was like a work experience and you're gaining some stuff and you want to talk to folks here about like what they would be gaining from it and what have you. And we're calling it a scholarship, but it's not really a scholarship, but that's how we're getting our taxes and stuff like that. I'm just wondering if stipend covers the same thing, it might be cleaner to call it what it is. And I might get some of the candidates that really are looking at. Or it might be a big legal mess, in which case we can.
Okay, so Sam, what I just wrote down is Sam will then talk to the staff here and see what they would revamp this as. And then we'll also follow up with HR to see what the implications of scholarship versus stipend versus internship versus fellowship or whatever those distinctions are. I'm assuming you also have the advertising and the application form from last year. So is that something you want to look at revamping? Okay. And then bring it to us at the next meeting.
Sure.
Okay. And if you want brainstorming, grab any of us. We can help. Okay. Any other Ray Grande scholarship questions? I think it would be good if we can make a decision next month, even if we're not, because that, if we're going to summer, we don't need to have everyone apply until April. So then we're getting into competing jobs too. So like most of them are starting March and April is the time frame for application deadlines and interviews.
But if you're 15, I mean, so 15 hours a week at $15 an hour, 6 weeks is 1,800. So you haven't really talked budgeting yet, but that's not gonna be a full-time job anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't think we're gonna be fully competing with.
Yeah.
Oops.
Do we have like, so they work 15 hours a week, but is there like, are you going to define when those hours are? Like you said, during summer reading, so they could always come in, they could come in after 4 like, I'm just saying if they wanted to work at Camp T during the day, they could still do this in the afternoons.
Or if they have an evening job, we can work with Sam to do midday or something.
So the hours are flexible as long as they get the number of hours in every week.
I mean, I do think, again, the library we need to make sure we're getting what we need when we need it to.
Yeah, that's
So
what
like there's the
we've
balance.
We've always done that. It's always,
Okay.
And if there's a way to have a maximum, so you don't want them doing 40 hours a week and then the rest of the summer.
That's a good point. Yeah, so if you could structure those like rules, if you will, it would be helpful. I mean, I do think having a family vacation and they're not there, that they can spread it out over the 2 other weeks or something would be good. Okay. Moving on to new business, we have, the first thing is a professional development travel request.
Yes, so Megan submitted, I put in your packets, she would like to go to YALSA, which is taking place in, St. Louis, Missouri this year from November 10th to the 12th. So we've never really done this before as far as having professional development, but well, out of state. So I did send you guys something. I spoke to other library directors about what they do, conference attendance, and they have a procedures plan. Yeah, I think this would be a great opportunity for Million. I think it's a good experience for her. I think she'll learn a lot. And so I'd like to recommend that we pay for her to go do this. And then, like I said, we discuss the plans in the future for any other staff that might attend conferences or and making sure it's equitable for everybody.
It's Jason Reynolds.
No,
I want to go.
I want to go too.
So, yeah, so she's requesting $1,296. That covers the registration, the lodging, the flight, and some food and incidentals.
How many days is it again? 3 days?
Yeah.
All right, any questions?
I think it sounds great. It sounds great. If we approve this for her before there's a policy, is that going to create hard feelings against is anybody else wanting to do anything like this?
I've literally never had anyone ask me. This is why it's kind of the first time. So no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's really not that much, honestly.
It's not that much until every librarian asks for it.
We have 15 of them, so.
Yeah, I know.
I'm all in. I think there should be a policy. If we're concerned about it, is this something we could ask friends about for support?
Actually, I have to talk to Michelle about how other town departments do it. I don't know if they have it in their budgets, so that might be something I want to add to the budget for next year that we're going to talk about later. But I don't see why the friends couldn't help, or what couldn't even take it from standing or another area too. But from what I understand, before I got here, previous directors had asked the trustees, and the trustees paid for it. But like I said, in the 9 years I've been here, no one's ever had, other than going to like a conference in Marlboro or somewhere, no one's ever. That's right.
I think, we've talked several times that we've been really impressed with, her energy around the YA room and trying different things. And I think that if this gives some additional suggestions and if the YA room is being used robustly, I wish it were a little bigger for the crowd that is in there. The overflow into the hallway and into here is regular. And I would be happy to support her doing that. And I do think we need to kind of look at that because I don't think that's a line in the budget for the library.
No, we do have travel, but that's to cover mileage.
Yeah.
And so it's like $500. But other than that, it's.
I would also want her to come back, obviously, and
report, yeah.
Then,
Yeah. Yeah, which is
train
why
the trainer.
that's one of the things I put in the plan I submitted is that they would have to submit some sort of report.
And come, either, do some sort of presentation at the library, or at least to us, or no.
Or to whomever is funding it, like if friends are funding it, they
Right.
should, well, I'd like to know too, but they should get the benefit of hearing where the money went to, right?
Right.
Which knowing Megan, she probably wants to do that anyway. So.
And I have no doubt that it'll tell us all about it and please all with all of her energy and ideas that she gets. So I love this. I love that she had initiative and is passionate about wanting to do this. And I do think it fits into one of our goals for the library, which was to create a YA position, which never existed before. And now we're supporting that position. So if with a professional development opportunity, I am concerned about setting precedent about doing this right now without a process in place. And also a budget, a yearly budget for this kind of thing, because I do think we're just setting it up so that, if everyone else on staff asks us, then how do we say no? Which is why I think having a global plan for a year, and then us having we'll do X amount of professional development funding for the year, and you can divide that under however you see fit based on the goals for the library for the year, then I think that's a better way for the future. So I am concerned that it's going to set some feeling like they didn't get something too, for the other staff.
I honestly don't feel it like
Okay.
knowing them. I don't think they'll feel that way.
Okay.
When you sent out that you have drafted a procedure, and I think that, in it, you're noting that there are limited funds available. Which I think anyone here who's worked here would understand, and most of your staff have a lot of longevity here. It's at the director's approval. There are issues like coverage that needs to be looked at, the benefits of the thing, there's a report that goes back into it. And you're looking at equity and attendance across, so if Megan asks again tomorrow or next week, like the answer is likely no. So there's an equity bonus versus Diane comes up next in the queue, and that would obviously be considered, but again, the leading thing is there's limited funds available, and I think that's valid to kind of highlight for people. And I'd like that there's, again, I know this isn't formal or anything, but if you're making a presentation, if you have membership or standing in the hosting professional organization, that all makes sense in terms of prioritizing. And I think it says something that for 9 years, no one else has taken the initiative to say, I want to learn more, go deeper. And I think that this is something we've talked pretty openly about here, that there's been some stagnation. So I do, again, would want there to be equity, and I don't want there to be hard feelings, but there's been 9 years of opportunity to say, I want to go do something, and no one's done that. So, and that's just your tenure. I'm not sure there was anything prior to your tenure either. So I don't think it's not an invalid argument, but I wouldn't be overly concerned that everyone's gonna hop on a plane out of nowhere either.
And I guess when I'm thinking professional development as well, like when I'm thinking of, is there a way you can say, this is what I'm thinking of professional development. I know of these opportunities, this person's already talked to me about it, whatever. And you can kind of say, for the next year, I want to bring in this speaker for a staff meeting, this speaker, and these are the costs associated with it. This person wants to go to a conference. They've done the application thing. You can say, okay, so I am requesting X dollar value for professional development this year. Out of trust funds. Specifically, we can supplement that, see if friends are willing to do so. Or if other departments are having professional development wrapped into their town budget, we should talk about whether that should be included as a line item in our own town budget. So all these components go into it, right?
That is something that seems missing from what you wrote up, Sam, that there's been, you guys had the Alice, did you Alice or the, what did you have, a Goodman comes in training?
Yeah, we had the Alice training.
It was Alice, well, okay, so there was the Alice training, there was the recent LGBTQ and equity training. So you've had speakers.
Yeah,
Big fan, and those
thing
are,
is usually it's free.
but it doesn't matter, it doesn't mean they're lesser than.
And it also, I think, shows your plan for professional development. Even if it's a free speaker, you're showing that just show us what you've planned for the year. Yeah.
And free doesn't mean bad.
No, free.
No, I just mean that's another reason we haven't really asked for anything.
Yeah.
Usually a lot of the
So if there is a speaker and the topic of which fits into the goals of the library and what you want to do, then I don't see any reason not to ask about it or to have a discussion about it.
And that can also be in the, when you're looking at the priorities of development, staff development, procedures and application, we also prioritize staff development for all staff. And want to ensure that once a year, twice a year, whatever your vision is, the next vision is, that's on site, and we close the library for that, and we do, so it's not that no one's getting development, she just happens to be going off site for it. And meeting Jason Brett.
All right. Any other further discussion on Megan's professional development request? Would someone like to make a motion?
Do we have to approve a dollar amount and a budget line item?
Yes, I haven't looked at the. Bars. Thank you. I knew there was something I was missing today. Excuse me, the treasurer does her job.
No, you didn't your jobs today.
Just to confirm, Sam, this is 3 or 4.
3 or 4.
Where's my other items? I feel like I keep pulling from the same one. All right. Scene 2, I should say. Would you like me to make a motion?
Sure.
1,300 is a reasonable estimate.
Yeah.
Okay. I move that, I move that we transfer $1,300 from 314 Second Century Librarians Fund to MMDT to fund Megan's professional development request.
I said.
All in favor?
Aye.
I would love to hear about. Can't wait to hear how all the ideas she comes back with.
We'd love to have her come to a meeting.
Okay. And I do want to, let's put reviewing Sam's application request, that document. Do we need to approve it, or is that?
Yeah, other libraries have it approved by their trustees.
Okay, so let's put that on the next, can the policy crew look at it? And put it on the next meeting? Okay, so policy crew are meeting on. All right, so the next one I think is library closures.
So, 2 holidays. So Veterans Day falls on Friday this year. So I don't know what you guys want to do. So the town's going to close on Friday because they're not open on Saturday, but we're open on Saturday. So this is affecting a lot of other libraries as well. So some of them are closing both Friday and Saturday. Some of them are just closing Saturday and just staying open Friday. And some of them are closing Friday and opening on Saturday. So we could just stay open Friday and close on Saturday, but the issue then becomes most of the benefited staff that would get that day as a vacation day, like me and Mike, we would just have to turn it into a floating holiday, which is I'm fine with. Like as well, but because most of the benefited staff wouldn't work on Saturday. So that could create a scheduling issue because the town bylaw says we have to take it within that week. So then we would have to take a random day off during that week. Or we could just close it and everybody gets that Friday off and Saturday. So
Friday and or Saturday.
Friday and yours. Right. We could also just open Saturday. But that would mean opening on the actual holiday, Veterans Day, which I don't know how most people work.
So the select board voted to close Friday for the rest of the town staff.
No, it's just they didn't vote on anything. It's just that's in the bylaw that the town, if the holiday falls on Saturday, you close on that Saturday. But since the town is never open on Saturday,
They do an
just close
observe.
on Friday.
What do you want to do?
I'm fine just closing it Saturday. I don't know.
Just on the day of.
Yeah, on the day of. I don't know if most of the staff even care. The one I think the other holiday I'm asking about is the day after Thanksgiving, Friday, November 24th. So I think the select board did vote to close that day for the town. So I would ask that we close as well. But, Veterans Day is. I'm fine with when. You wanna close on Friday?
I mean, I feel like it would be neater that way, but,
Close Friday, open Saturday.
I would say close both days, but. I mean, it's manageable to just close Saturday.
It's the actual holiday water Saturday.
It's actually Friday.
Right.
No,
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 Saturday, Saturday.
If the public holiday is is Friday.
Got it.
I personally think that if you can be open Friday, there's no school Friday, and I think families would appreciate having the library open.
Is there no school Friday?
There's no school Friday.
In Littleton, there's no school on the Friday.
But, I mean, is it closed because of the holiday?
Yes.
But they're not going on Saturday.
Right.
So the federal holiday observed is Good Friday.
Right.
Like, I personally wouldn't want the library to be closed for 2 days.
Right, I don't think that makes sense.
I have trouble with it simply because the town employees get the 1 day off, which would mean Saturday employees would get 1 day off, but I know that impacts you too.
I'm fine with staying open Friday. So really the November 24th is the main day to close the day after Thanksgiving.
Why wouldn't we just align with the town then?
So on the, I think given that the select board Thanksgiving is closed across the board anyway, as the federal holiday, and then the Friday after the select board's given the rest of the town off. They voted this week. So again, I think aligning with the town is totally reasonable in that sense.
Yes, and I think, I'm fine with that, especially if you give people enough notice so they stock up on books before, that one's fine, but I feel strongly that you should be open on November 10th. Like especially with no school, gives families a place to come. But yeah, I'm fine with the Friday after Thanksgiving.
So
Do we need
I'm
to,
asking for, we need you guys to vote on closing Friday.
Do we need to talk about Christmas yet too, or is that a different?
So Christmas Eve is a Sunday, so we're closed anyway. Christmas is a Monday, so we're closed,
Okay,
but 7/23 is Saturday, so
close at 4, so
close at 4.
everything is fine, it's not an issue? Easy. Okay.
so we don't actually have to take a vote on those days because it's in the bylaws.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this year we're talking, the dates we need to take a vote on are Veterans Day and the day after Thanksgiving.
Really, you only have to talk about Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving, because Veterans Day will close. The
Yeah,
bylaws
Veterans Day
says
holiday.
that-
All right, thank you. Yes, that is the whole thing.
I move that we close the library on November 24th.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Oh, do we want to close at 4 on Wednesday? Day before?
Yes,
Yes.
for the day before Thanksgiving,
yes.
I'm assuming town is already closed then.
4 hours, sorry. It used to be that they weren't.
Can you double check that?
Yeah, sure.
Actually,
Well,
we can
I
just,
think it's only close to go.
yeah.
I know they didn't vote on it, so that's right.
Again, I would like to align with town on that, and I don't believe that was part of the select board's motion. But that said, I think they don't go until 8 o'clock at night, so.
Right.
Post on the website.
There's a couple of things I've been trying to find out.
All right, I'll ask them. I'll ask back.
Is us voting at the next meeting too late for your stuff?
It's too late for letting patrons in. It's kind of late.
Do we have to align with the town?
We get to make this choice. It's just, if we go so far out of line with the town, we end up getting. We sometimes create staffing HR issues if we go too far away from the town and
I don't think
hours.
4 PM is a.
But they close at 4 anyway. Isn't that when they close? Like on a
They
regular day?
recently changed their hours.
They
so-
changed the hours.
Oh,
Even if we closed at 5 on that, would that be too late on? I mean, 4 is
I mean,
fine.
5 seems like a normal day.
But
Why 4 versus 5 then?
It's always been 4. So it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Looks like other departments are closing at 4:30.
We split them for- How
Would
did
you be
sign
okay
that?
closing at 5, Sam?
Yeah, so like I'm looking at the accountant, 4:30, building, 4:30.
Well, what if we just align with the town and do 4:30?
Town administrator, yeah, it looks like.
Then if
looks like
someone
they-
questions it, we can just say, you know, it's a town department, right? And the other town offices are closing at 4:30.
Would make a motion.
Are you good with that, Sam?
That's good.
Well, you need to vote on it.
I make a motion that we close at 4:30 on November 22nd.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. A little extra time. Okay.
Thank you.
Where are we now? Library closures, fiscal year 25 budget.
Yeah,
And
so I submitted a spreadsheet with budget for next year. So basically it's just regular step increases for everyone like I do every year. As far as COLA, I did include a chart, a spreadsheet with 2% COLA, but apparently we don't know exactly what it's going to be yet. So I was told by Kim that, or Robin rather, that they're going to make that change depending on what they decide.
The COLA.
The COLA part, but just regular, the first spreadsheet, it's just what it is without any kind of COLA. So, and then the books and materials I increased to help with them to meet the MAR. And everything else.
Did our MAR change with our population size?
Yes, it did. It went down.
It went down. Okay.
Okay. So it used to be that it was 19%, now it's 16%. So, yeah, so, and then MVLC, I did increase a little bit, but I'm not sure yet because they haven't run the numbers yet.
When will you find that one
Usually right before or after it's due.
out? So that's something they're typically used to us coming to amend.
Yeah. Actually, I don't even usually amend it. It just kind of goes through and then it's usually less
Than your estimate.
right. So then the money just goes back to me. Yeah. So for salary and wages, without the COLA, it's a 1% increase over last year. Library expenses is 6% mostly due to the increase in the amount for books and MVLC. And overall, it's a 2%, 2.2% change, which is usually they ask for 2 to 3%.
Well, given that everything just jumped a lot last year, it's kind of nice to see it back in the 2-3%. Okay. Any questions about the budget? And this is specifically the library operating budget.
Yes.
Do we need to vote on that slate?
No. And then I'm also going to, I think we talked about discussing the building expenses and merging that into the town's facilities budget. So with all the medical stuff I've been playing from town with Ryan, so hopefully we'll be able to meet next week and I'll try. I know you want to be involved with that.
And I am gonna have to find where I saved that manual that they gave us, just to make sure that all the annual regular maintenance things, I think there was a list in there somewhere, so just making sure that that's captured.
Okay.
Maybe we can pick George's brain about what he's already put under contracts, the town contracts, to make sure that's captured too.
Sure.
But that isn't our budget to approve, we just fight to get annual maintenance budget put into it. Okay. And utilities and electricity, which hopefully they have good bills in it, so. All right, any other budget questions? All right, thank you for bringing. Other business? Anyone have any other business? You know, I feel like Kimberly told me something and I forgot what it is. Hold on. She did not. Okay, I didn't take note of it if that's the case. All right, trustee updates. Anyone have any?
Just have set up the book fair. Always. It's interesting to see what comes
It's
in.
fun to see what comes in. I helped yesterday too. I also did the story walk this past week, which I love when my 14-year-old's still willing to go on a story walk. And I really appreciate Diane working with conservation to do those. So I already thanked her for it, but love
That's up
that.
until the 15th, is that right?
It's open through Sunday.
Sunday.
So that would be the 15th. Yes. There's still time and it's one of the newer properties, so it's fun. It's across the street from what you,
Right.
where you park.
Yeah.
It's good. And the book ban displays were great. I tried to put a banned books display together in the sale room last night. I was like, look, there's one, here's another one. Which was fun. Any other things from you guys? And barring no other updates,
I move to adjourn.
A second.
all in favor?
All right.
See you guys November 9th.
All right, question for the minutes.
Thanks for coming.
What did we decide about veterans?